In Malaysia, the first cases of COVID-19 were reported in early January 2020. Then the virus was brought in by tourists from China and Singapore. At the end of February, a religious conference for 16,000 participants was held in one of the mosques of Kuala Lumpur, as a result of which more than 600 people were infected. 2 weeks later, the strictest quarantine regime was introduced in the country, which lasted 54 days. My name is Ekaterina, and I've been following the development of the epidemiological situation in Kuala Lumpur since the first days of quarantine. At the time, residents were forbidden to go outside without a valid reason, and if there was one, only one family member could go out and strictly wearing a mask. The valid reasons list included a trip to work, pharmacy, the grocery store. Traffic was closed not only between states and cities, but also between different neighborhoods of the city. The police checked each car and asked for the purpose of the trip. There was a curfew in Kuala Lumpur from 8 p.m. until the morning. At the time of quarantine, a total of 790 cases were identified. The virus outbreak was stopped thanks to immediate response and strict preventive measures. Until the end of summer, the number of new cases hovered around 30 cases per day for the entire country of 30 million. Despite the relaxation of preventive measures since mid-May, the registration procedure and the observance of the distance, both in public spaces and in apartment buildings, remain mandatory.
Как в общественных пространствах, так и в многоквартирных домах.
Malaysian authorities allocated significant funds for the economic support of businesses and the population. According to international consulting agencies, as of September 2020, the total financial assistance fund amounted to $73.5 billion. The money was used for humanitarian assistance to vulnerable groups of the population, as well as benefits for the sick, students, and retirees.
In
Malaysia, a number of tax breaks were introduced for both individuals and legal entities. For example, in 2020, tax deductions of up to $70,000 are due to companies that decide to make repairs or upgrade equipment in production. Public funds are used to finance microcredit, job preservation, and retraining programs for employees most affected by layoffs.
In Malaysia, the SME sector is quite affected a lot, especially we do a lockdown. So the business going drop between 60 to 70%. The government is doing a good job. They do a BBN for the individually and also for the MSC, the local small business. So they give like a moratorium to hold the stock of payment to the bank, and also they give incentive like a bond to make the businessmen start again the business. Our restaurant has been closed for around 1.5 months. Okay, then after that we open back. We need to reduce the seating capacity from 120 pax to 60. So meaning around 50%. We need to reduce in terms of the social distance 2 meters between each table.
While hotels and restaurants are empty, revenues in the ready-to-eat meals delivery market have grown by almost 1.5 times. Today, more than 20% of Malaysians order food delivery to their homes on an ongoing basis. But, as if often the case, what is good for the economy is bad for the environment. In neighboring Singapore, every day of quarantine, 6 million citizens of the country throw out 26 tons more of used food packaging than before. Non-recyclable plastic containers, along with used face masks and sanitizer bottles, end up being washed into the South China Sea and carried by currents across the world's oceans. According to the environmentalists, due to the pandemic, the total volume of plastic in Southeast Asia increased by 30%, while in large cities such as Bangkok, this figure reached 60% in the first month of quarantine. While many types of plastics are theoretically recyclable, recycling food packaging has low margins and is therefore unattractive to contractors. As for medical masks, once in the water, they do not decompose, but disintegrate into microparticles of polypropylene, which ends up in our drinking water. People in Malaysia who are concerned about health and the environment shop in stores of unpackaged goods. Here you can buy food and hygiene products in your own container, as well as purchase reusable face masks. The market quickly adjusted to new realities, and now not only vegetable oil or shampoo is sold here, but also hand sanitizer.
For an average use in the pharmacy for a 50 ml bottle is about 20 times usage. So imagine using that a few times a day. So you're using about 4 bottles a month. And then about 40 to 50 bottles a year. Times that by the amount of people in Malaysia, you're gonna get like few hundred thousands of bottles just being thrown away every year. It's crazy. You could just need to buy a bottle one time, and then you can just refill it many times after that, and it's so much cheaper.
Buying a hand sanitizer in your own container has a positive effect on the environment and on your own wallet. This also applies to reusable masks.
The reports now, they're saying like there's 10 million disposable face masks that's thrown away every day. So imagine if like just a few of us just started using reusable face masks, we can just cut that number down by so much.
As with the rest of the world, Malaysians are eagerly waiting for a vaccine and reconsidering the lessons of the pandemic. Due to the second wave, schools and kindergartens are closed again, playgrounds are fenced off. For young children, in contrast to adults, a year in complete or partial isolation is 20-30% or even half of their life. One can only guess how this will affect the worldview of children and their tired parents. Only one thing can be unequivocally stated. By thinking well and drawing conclusions for ourselves, we can become more resistant to similar challenges in the future.
Выводы, мы сможем стать устойчивее к подобным катаклизмам в будущем.
The pandemic has introduced some small and at the same time colossal adjustments into human life, forcing us to adapt to new conditions. In each country, it happens in its own way. Life in the era of COVID, watch new reports from different countries in our next episodes.